That's real.
Yes. Hello. This is Let's Get Real again from For Real English. We're in the bar room. Look at this. We've got a massive selection of beer behind us.
First question: who drank most of them?
Who drank most of these beers? Do you think? You did. No. All right. Right. The idea about this webinar, it's a little bit more casual. The weather's good. People are out there enjoying themselves, drinking beer, and everybody loves beer. Well, most people do, and if you don't, you're a bit strange. So we're talking about beer, Mark.
Yes.
Beverage.
And
beer.
I know nothing about beer because I'm a teetotaler, like I'm from. So you'll have to walk me through today. So first of all, what's a brewery?
All right. So first bit of vocabulary: brewery or breweries. That's basically the people who make beer. It's the people. Well, the verb to make beer is actually to brew beer. It's this process. It's the fermentation. It's the process of taking the ingredients, keeping them for an amount of time until you've produced beer. It's like a biological process, basically. And so a brewery. So breweries in England. Imagine in Spain the amount of bodegas that you've got in Spain that make wine. You've got loads. Just in Navarra, you've got Otazu, Inurrieta, Sarria, loads. Like in so many villages. In England, it's the same, but with breweries, and breweries make beer. It is that dense that like there's loads and loads of breweries.
You knew who used to be big in brewery?
Who?
Monks.
Monks.
That's why you have a lot of names of beers are related to. For example, in Belgium, a lot of the names are related to monks.
Yeah, I think we've got some monks on here somewhere. The great big fat monk or something like that. Look, he's a monk.
He's a monk.
That's a monk right there. So
no hair.
Right. I'm not sure about this one, but where did beer originate from? Who
I have no idea.
invented? I think it was the Egyptians. Believe it or not.
I know wine is Iran.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wine was discovered in Iran.
But I'm not really sure.
Beer, a lot of people think that the Belgians or the monks or whatever discovered beer, but apparently it was the Egyptians that discovered beer. It is a biological process and it's a wonderful thing.
Talking about breweries, by the way.
Yes.
Imagine you're a brewery and you called your beer
Corona.
This.
Yeah, Corona.
How screwed are you at the minute with marketing?
People are buying. Well, this is good marketing. You buy Corona, right? This beer, Corona, is lager. Okay,
where's the lager? Then we're going here. We got, for example, Franciscaner, a beer I really like. I'm really keen on that. Got a nice monk on there, if you can see it. Right. We got Corona, which is, for example, if we compare the two, this is 5% alcohol. This is 4.5, I believe. Then you got the typical, your San Miguel from Spain. There are many more beers that we see. So talk us a bit like, what is some of the process? What are some of the ingredients, Christian?
Okay, well, beer has 4 ingredients, more or less. Okay, you've got water, you've got hops. Now, hops.
Screen, by the way.
You need hops to make beer. If you don't have hops, you can't have beer. And hops in Spanish is lúpulo. You also need yeast, which is it levadura? Yeast.
Not really sure.
Hops, right, is this weird plant that grows in vines. It grows really high, and it's got these buds on it, and they smell really strong. And if you've ever been to a brewery,
certain ale, though. It's not all beer. All beer have hops.
You need hops.
So if they say here, this is
hops.
A wheat beer,
it
still has hops.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
So you've got water, you've got hops, you've got yeast, which is basically the bacteria. It's like if you make bread and you don't have yeast, I don't think it works.
You get German bread. Really flat, no air inside, very dense, very horrible.
So the yeast, which is levadura, I think in Spanish, it creates this biological process where the bacteria starts to react and make things ferment and grow and expand and all this stuff. So beer is no different. You need yeast because it makes that biological not experiment, but that reaction so that beer is created. The other one is is basically a grain. And when I say grain, what's that in Spanish? Grain.
I don't know actually.
Like
somebody give us a comment. What is grain?
A different grain. I think is it cultivo? I can't remember.
No,
grain.
Is all of them, but anyway.
So the greatest thing about beer is that you can change the grain depending on the type of beer that you want. Okay, so usually it's hops and water and yeast and barley. Right, barley is the grain that you put in the mixture
from create beer. Here is barley.
Barley is probably this one.
The Corona one.
Yeah, Corona and San Miguel.
San Miguel's
got barley and Corona's got barley, right? If you look at this beer, which is Franciscaner, right? This doesn't have barley; it has wheat. Okay, so basically they change the grain.
So if you take, for example, a Guinness,
yes,
it's barley, or was that
right? The difference here. So Guinness, as most people know, Guinness. If you've been to Ireland, you will have tried Guinness.
Yeah, I don't think
we don't have Guinness here, but we've got stout, right? And this is the thing. So Guinness is a type of stout. Now, stout is a really, really dark beer. Now, the only difference is in the process of making it is that the wheat, the grain that they use is toasted or malted or, like now, modernized brewing, should I say. Like the brewing of beer has become more modernized and more complicated and very complex. And, well, not complex, but just really diverse. You can do lots of things. Dark beer, or particularly stout, which is this beer that you can get in the bars in Pamplona.
What's it called? Tostada.
Well, but it's even darker.
Even right? All right.
So stout, which is really, it looks black. Did you know that Guinness is not actually black? It's dark red. Right? If you hold Guinness up to the light and you look into it, it's not black, it's red.
It's like your beer.
Yeah, it's like my beer. Right? It's not dark, it's red. But basically, what happens is the grain that they use to brew the beer is not barley. It's toasted or it's malted. Or now caramelized. So you get a lot of these grains that are caramelized or toasted or malted, and it basically means that they are, if you like, cooked. I suppose cooked is the best way.
Just
the grain that you use is cooked, and obviously the darker the grain, the darker the beer, because the grain gives the beer the colour, and also not just the colour, but the depth. And when I mean depth, I mean like this intense dark flavour and colour, basically. So that's the ingredients. Another ingredients. Did you know that you can make beer with other grains like rice? Of course, rice beer. I've never tried it. I don't think.
No.
This is wheat, which is I don't know what it is in Spanish. I can't remember now. Wheat is.
Cebada? No, cebada is.
Cebada is.
I can't remember.
Right. So all these beers. The three beers we've got here. I've got another beer. We've got another beer, but it's propping up my phone, so we can't touch it, right? It's a dark one. Okay. Basically, I'd leave that one, otherwise it's going to probably drop down. There we go. This is really commercial, but this is Voldam, double malted, right? This is double malted grain.
So what is double malted, for example?
I think the process of the grain, of the way that it's prepared, is doubled, so it gives it a different flavour and more intensity.
You yeast it twice, or you let it fermentate twice, or is it?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's double fermented. I'm not sure. It could. I don't think it is. I think beer's only fermented once.
I know that. I think if you have more, you get
decline. That's a phone call, right? I think that it's only fermented once. I think it's the process of preparing the grain that makes the beer different. Next thing, let's just
actually, question for you.
I'm gonna have a drink.
Preparation of the beer, of course, as you buy it, one way or the other. I know that in Africa they like to drink lukewarm beer. Lukewarm beer is basically room temperature, and preferably from a straw. That way you get drunk quicker.
Really?
So the colder a beer is, the more tolerant you are of the alcohol in it. Right? So if it's warm beer, warm wine, something like that, you get drunk a bit quicker. But how do you like your pour? Northern or southern pour?
Right.
And what's the difference?
Here's the next one then. So this is a really important thing. If you go to England, England, only England, not Scotland, not Ireland, and not Wales. You've got lots of different beers. Go to a pub, a traditional pub, and what can happen is you've got exactly the same brand of beer, the same make, the same brand. It's the same barrel. Like the liquid in the barrel is exactly the same. Okay. If you go to a pub in the north of England or a pub in the south of England, the beer that you get from the exact same barrel of beer looks and tastes completely different. Right? Why? Right? This is the difference between the northern pour and, I should say, the northern pour and the southern pour, right? I'm from the north, so obviously the northern pour, as far as I'm concerned, is by far the best way to drink beer. But remember, this is...
You still haven't told us what is a northern pour.
Okay, but I'm not talking about this type of beer. This is lager, okay? What I'm talking about is a beer that in England we call ale. That's A-L-E, ale.
What's that?
Ale is just a different process of brewing beer. Okay?
Right.
Now, as I understand, brewing lager or ale. Okay, so ale, for example, IPA, or in Spain everybody says IPA, and everybody loves IPA, or a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right, that is Indian Pale Ale. And ale is just a type of beer, but it is not lager. It's not this type of beer, right? So the big difference is
Ale.
Ale is, I think, at the top somewhere. I can't remember. Oh, maybe down here. But this is, look, this is stout.
That's a stout.
This is ale. Look, Indian Pale Ale.
All right, there you
and
go.
This is Fuller's, which is a really good brewery. Just going back to breweries, you've got Sam Smith's, John Smith's, Fuller's Brewery, Adnams Brewery.
John and Sam brothers?
Sussex Brewery. John and Sam, probably brothers that separated and made their own breweries.
What's the famous beer from the United States? What's the famous beer from the United States?
Budweiser.
Budweiser. But Budweiser is
from Czech Republic.
Exactly, and there's a big fight there. It used to be one family. They had a big row, and now they have American Budweiser and the Czech Budweiser.
So, what's the difference between lager, which is this? Lager is basically San Miguel, Mau, Cruz Campo, other, right? This is lager, right? Ale is different types of beer, brewed and it's fermented differently. Now, as I understand, lager ferments at the top of the tank. Imagine when you go to a bodega in Spain and you've got these massive tanks with wine in. A lot of it, they use the process of gravity to make the wine, don't they?
Everything goes to the bottom.
So in brewing beer, lager ferments, it brews at the top, and ale at the bottom of the tank. At the end of this video, I'm going to post a really interesting video that tells you all these things. It's great. Now, going back to northern pour and southern pour. So if you go to England and you go to the north of England and you ask for a pint of, let's say, John Smith's ale, okay, they pour this draft beer. It's called draft beer, right? It's called draft because they have to pull this big handle. They pull it towards them, and it pulls the beer through tubes. There is no gas artificially added, right? The only gas that gets into that beer is the natural process of pulling the beer.
So it's very flat.
When it's in the barrel, the beer is flat.
All right.
Right. When I say
flat means
flat,
no bubbles, nothing.
Yeah, it's not bubbly. It's got no gas. But remember, it's bacteria. It's alive. Right?
Yeah, but it's got no foam. It's got
there's no head. There's no, you say in Spanish, espuma.
Yeah.
Right.
So the head of a beer, we kind of think you can almost see it like the little white layer on top.
Yeah, the head. We say the head.
Yeah.
Like head is espuma. So there's some good vocabulary. When you go to the north of England, you get John Smith's, or you get any type of ale. They will pull the beer, and if it's draft beer, it's because they have to pull it. Now, the difference is, and what you need is about like the thickness of my finger, more or less, right? At the top of the glass, what you want is a finger thickness of head. In Spanish, you would say espuma. You need that. You need that, okay? Now, what happens is the hops, which is in the beer, and the wheat, well, sorry, the barley, the head of the beer, it keeps the flavour in the beer.
Right? Did not know that.
Okay? Now, what happens is that the head of the beer, it has a lot of flavour in the head of the beer. Now, if you go to the south of England and you ask for exactly the same beer, they will pull the beer, but it's a southern pot, it's not a northern pot. So you will receive that pint of beer on the table and there will be no head, no bubbles, no espuma, right? Nothing.
Flat.
Flat. And in fact, the way that they decide if it's a very, very good pint of beer is that if you can see through the beer, if it is crystal clear, okay, and flat on the top, like a pond, like a lake, right? Flat, no disturbance. They'll say that's a great pint of beer. Now, what happens is the taste of the beer changes because there's no foamy head. In the north, you get the head, and if you don't have a head, you basically take the beer back to the bar and say, hey.
Yeah, because in Holland, when I worked in a bar, you always had a rule, 2-finger head on the beer. So if you, obviously we don't have to pull the beer, we kind of just, from the tap, pressurized, keep the glass, and you would have 2 fingers of head.
Two fingers of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now in Spain, I know that the pressure is very low on the beers. If I see people pouring a beer in Spanish bars, there's no pressure in the system. In Holland, there's a lot of pressure behind it.
Okay.
So you really have to,
quickly.
It comes out with a lot of force, and you have to really keep the glass at an angle. And then at the end, you just tip it straight, 2 fingers of head.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
So it's a bit different again in how you pour things. I don't know if it impacts the taste the same way.
I remember when I went to Holland, like you said, it comes out like with a lot of pressure, and in fact, the person who's serving the beer whisks off.
Also, you quickly take a whisk, whisk it off,
and take off the head until the beer settles. That this verb to settle.
Yeah, because when I first came to Spain and I saw them just pouring the beer, like when they put a beer glass straight under the tap, open the tap, and they might even walk away and just kind of pouring out of the glass.
Yeah.
And in Holland, that would never be the case. You just shoot out the glass.
Yeah.
Much more pressure.
Yeah. You can't do that in the UK with the beer. You've got to hold the glass, make it on an angle, pour the beer.
Same.
Next one, let's talk about IPA or IPA, which they say in Spain. So IPA is ale, and the letters, the abbreviation is Indian Pale Ale. Do you know what that is? No? Why?
You just told me the story, so yes.
So basically, Indian Pale Ale, or IPAs, as everybody says in Spain, right? This was in the year 1740 or something.
The year of Victoria.
Right? And the British were travelling to India because they had this, they'd conquered, it was part of the, what's the word?
British Empire.
The Empire, right? India was part of the British Empire. Now, obviously the British sailors, they loved beer and they wanted to take beer from England to India. However, the first time that they did it, they loaded the ship with lots of beer. And when they arrived to India, the beer had gone off. What that means is it was bad, it tasted terrible. It was no good, because if you imagine beer, which is a fermented liquid, if you travel for 6 months, which in those days, it was 6 months, right? So from the UK, from England to India, it took 6 months. And so by the time the boat had reached India, the beer tasted horrible. So it was no good.
Yeah.
So they said, oh, we've got to think about this. And in India, it was so hot that they couldn't brew beer because it was too hot. The conditions were too hot. So what they did was they brewed the beer in England. And what they did was they brewed it with a higher alcohol content.
I thought it was lower.
It's higher.
Higher.
Right?
All right.
And they brewed it so that it was more hoppy. Now, hoppy, in Spanish, you say lupuloso, right? Hoppy means that a beer has got a high level of hops and it's got this really strong citrus, almost fruity smell, but citrusy, very citrusy, right? So they put extra hops in, they brewed it so it had more hops, and they made the alcohol content higher. And then as it went for 6 months on the boat, on the ship from England to India, when it arrived to India, not only did they realise that it was preserved and it tasted good, it actually tasted better, right? And so they got this ale, which was not dark and not really deep in colour, but it was light and it was pale, and that is where the name Indian Pale Ale comes from. When you say in Spain, IPA, it's Indian Pale Ale, and the reason is that of this process from the beer that travelled from England to India, so that the beer stayed good and it improved, and that was what we did. And this is another phone call that we've got. All right, that's somebody saying, go to the pub.
Stop talking about it. Quick question then,
yeah.
for the end. Your favourite?
Last question.
Recommendation. Like, for example, I love white beer. Absolutely love it.
Is that your favourite?
By far.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so Mark's a big fan of wheat beer, Weiss beer. Is it German?
Weiss, yeah.
Weiss.
Yeah,
so Weiss, I suppose, is wheat.
Wheat,
It has to be.
Or
Weiss is wheat.
White, maybe white beer.
What is wheat in Spanish? What is it?
Cebada, no.
No, I can't think about it. Doesn't matter.
No.
Right, my favourite, it depends. If it's winter and it's really cold, I absolutely love dark stout or dark beer.
Yeah.
But
Why not?
I love dark. I love dark beer. I love dark beer because I think it's intense. It's aromatic. It's really good. It goes perfectly with the winter. However, in the summer, not summer, but now when it's really warm, I would never drink dark stout or beer. I would prefer to drink something like this. But I also really love wheat beer, like Mark. Mark's a big fan of wheat beer. I love that.
Yeah.
But then I think there are so many different beers. I'm not sure that I've got a favourite. Okay. I love IPA, but some of them are too citrusy for me. I don't like a beer that's too citrusy because I like the beer flavour. I like hops.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody their own.
The great thing is that in Nevada now, in Pamplona, they've got some really good beer, actually. Local beer.
Yeah.
Some local breweries, people that make their own beer and people that are doing beer. So if you want to try some beer, which I think you should, especially now tomorrow, there are some good bars in Pamplona. You've got Mannequin Beer, which is just here, close to the academy in Iturama. You've got Napargar in Plata del Castillo.
Do know what you want to order before you enter.
Yeah, just look at them on the screen
sometimes.
and see what you want, whether it's light or dark. And also, is it the beer house or the house beer?
House
beer. The house beer, which is close to the Parliament building.
Yes, between the Parliament.
That's good. It's got a lot of different beers to choose from. Basically, the message is this: enjoy your beer. Try beer. Try different beers. It's all good stuff. Also, try to learn how it's made, and also, if you want, try to make your own beer because that's a great chat.
Yeah. Good.
I'm a brewery. All right, it's been quite interesting. I feel like, I don't feel like I have just spoken the whole time about
sitting here.
Beer.
Waiting for my chance to
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers.
See you soon. Enjoy your weekends. Have lots of beer, not too much, and see you soon. All right. Bye bye.